the golds keep coming. Team GB on course for their best ever overseas Olympics. Within the last hour, Charlotte Dujardin has won the dressage, her third gold in a remarkable career. That after one of the most extraordinary days in British sport. Max Whitlock leading the way on Sensational Sunday.
As soon as you start getting the ball rolling, it makes people believe, it could be possible. It pushes people harder, and to be standing there with a medal is a very proud feeling.
Also tonight, former Premier League footballer Dalian Atkinson dies after being tasered by police.
Whoa. Risking his life to save lives, one Britain's perilous journey to deliver aid to Syria. A special report.
And the oldest ballerina in Britain to pass her Royal Academy of Dance exams.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. The gold rush in Rio shows no sign of ending tonight, with Britain now on course for its best ever overseas Olympic Games. Within the last hour, Charlotte Dujardin successfully defended the equestrian dressage title she won in London. More medals are possible later after one of the most remarkable weekends in British Olympic history.
Sunday alone brought one of Britain's biggest ever hauls in a single day. 5 golds and 3 silvers. 4 years ago, Britain was celebrating Super Saturday. Well, now that's been joined by Sensational Sunday. From Rio, our sports editor, Steve Scott.
If there were concerns Team GB would suffer that Monday morning feeling, they were misplaced. The immaculate Charlotte Dujardin retaining her dressage title today. You don't need to be an expert to admire how such power is controlled to behave with such grace.
Joining in unison.
Even the superstars who've done it all before can't fight the feeling. Andy Murray's hard-won gold late last night, launching Team GB into new territory on foreign soil. The 5th and final act on a spectacular, record-breaking Olympic Sunday. Earlier, Max Whitlock's golden double surprised even him, the first ever British Olympic champion in the gymnastics with his flawless floor routine. Followed by an equally memorable performance on the pommel horse, his speciality, relegating his disappointed teammate Lewis Smith into silver. Today there was no animosity, just pride that their medals could inspire others to keep the momentum going.
As soon as you start getting the ball rolling, it makes people believe, it could be possible. It pushes people harder, and to be standing there with a medal is a very proud feeling, and every athlete wants that.
I've really felt it the last couple of days, the momentum picking up now with GB athletes, and the momentum, it's such a good buzz. Everyone's pictures are on the side of the wall, and it shows you who's done what, and medals, and who's coming up next and stuff.
There was another all-British duel in the velodrome last night. Jason Kenny's sprint gold, his 5th, and he could leave Rio with a 6th, matching Sir Chris Hoy. One is all Justin Rose wanted, and yesterday he got what he came for, beating Open champion Henrik Stenson in a shootout. His experience here, a world away from life as a pro golfer.
You kind of keep tabs on the medal count and how it's ticking along and the progress of everybody and how it's comparing to our expectations, and so to have contributed a medal and to have contributed a gold is unbelievable.
And in the race to better Beijing, Sophie Hitchens' bronze in the hammer edged Team GB closer to that historic landmark, which now they're on course to pass with some ease. Steve Scott, ITV News, Rio de Janeiro.
Well, Sunday was also the day when the spotlight fell on the undoubted biggest star of the whole Olympic Games. Usain Bolt cruised to a feat never before achieved in Olympic history, his 3rd successive gold in the blue ribbon event, the 100 metres. John Ray reports on whether or not the impact of the fastest man on earth has at last lit the blue touch paper under the Rio Games.
It took you-know-who to finally bring Rio to life. And all in less than 10 scintillating seconds. As ever, Bolt took victory in his long stride. Cue trademark celebration and adoring crowd. But too many athletes here have got the silent treatment, from row upon row of unfilled seats. Organisers hope a turning point's been reached.
It's always disappointing not to have a completely full stage, and what we should remember is there are many venues around this Olympic Park which have been absolutely teeming to the rafters, with incredible atmospheres, swimming, gymnastics. We saw athletics last night, packed to the rafters.
Some who cannot get to the games have the games brought to them. In a Rio suburb, children compete in a DIY Olympics. If not a field of dreams, then perhaps a side street of high hopes. But who here will see the real thing?
How many of you want to go to the Olympics? And how many of you actually got tickets? Just one.
The coach's Olympic torch is authentic. He carried it in the relay. But that's as close as he'll get to the games themselves.
The price of tickets is high. The transport is difficult. It's in a rich part of town. It's not for poor people.
Of course, they're inspired by the real thing. But you might also argue that these mini Olympians have captured something sadly missing from Rio 2016 in the energy and enthusiasm of so many ordinary Brazilians. Organisers are now handing out unsold tickets to the city's school children. But with Rio's rival attractions free and easy, it might be too much to ask Brazil to fall in love with athletics. Still, at least last night's brief encounter was thrilling. John Ray, ITV News, Rio.
Let's go back to Steve Scott now in Rio. Another week to go then, Steve. Just how good could it get for Team GB?
Very good, I think, Mark. Still some strong events to come. Mark Cavendish in the velodrome tonight, a real possibility for gold. 3 more possible golds in the cycling tomorrow. Giles Scott is guaranteed a gold tomorrow. But what we've done, we've had a look ahead at the next week. We've done a little calculation, and it's not scientific. We've erred on the side of optimism, but we think potentially with the likes of the Brownlee brothers, Mo Farah again, Team GB has a realistic chance of getting another 27. Now, if you add 27 medals to today's tally, that takes us up to, what, 66, one more than London. Now, that might be a bit optimistic, but I think there's something that we can guarantee, and that is it's going to go way past 47, which was the Beijing total, and that's what Team GB were aiming to do in the first place.
I think nothing wrong with optimism, Steve. Thanks very much indeed.
Here, the former footballer Dalian Atkinson, who was once a highly paid star of the Premier League, has died after being tasered by police. It happened outside his father's home in Telford when officers were called to a disturbance.
Friends and teammates of Mr Atkinson, who played for Aston Villa, have been expressing their shock and sadness at his death. Ben Chapman reports from the scene.
How did a family argument end with the death of a former Premier League footballer shortly after being tasered by police in the street? Relatives say the former Aston Villa striker Dalian Atkinson was being treated for kidney problems. Today his nephew demanded answers, describing him as a gentle giant.
My uncle, it's just God, you know, I don't know, it just infuriates me how the police and they process you and they deal with things.
Neighbours say Dalian Atkinson was friendly and let children play inside his expensive 4x4. But last night his father is reported as saying his son was agitated, threatening and upset, possibly on drink or drugs. People heard shouting and screaming and someone called the police.
The gentleman was walking towards the police and I heard the policeman say about the taser. And he's sort of still stumbling forward, so I don't know if he was drunk or that was difficult to see completely. And then he tasered him, and as he dropped like a lead balloon.
A spokesman for the ambulance service said as he was being conveyed to Princess Royal Hospital, his condition deteriorated and he went into cardiac arrest. Despite the efforts of the crew and hospital staff, it was not possible to save him. Dalian Atkinson is perhaps best remembered for what remains one of the best goals in Premier League history. Today, his manager at Aston Villa called him an immense talent.
He was a happy sort of guy, you know, always smiling, very popular with his teammates. And as a player, he had immense talent, scorer of spectacular goals. In fact, I honestly think that the first year of the Premiership, if he hadn't got injured, I think we'd have won it.
West Mercia Police says it can't comment further while the police watchdog investigates. But Dalian Atkinson was well known and well loved here, and people have many questions about why and how he died.
In the last half an hour, the Independent Police Complaints Commission has issued a statement saying it would like to assure people that we've begun a full and thorough investigation into police contact with Dalian Atkinson last night. But his death will feed into the wider concerns about the police use of tasers, which has trebled in the last few years and which have been linked to the deaths of at least 10 people in England and Wales over the last decade.
Ben Chapman in Telford, thank you.
There are few more dangerous journeys right now than driving into the besieged Syrian city of Aleppo, particularly if you are trying to take in aid the Syrian regime wants kept out. But that is what one British relief worker has just managed to do, leading a convoy through a narrow and heavily bombarded corridor to reach trapped civilians in desperate need. Takir Sharif, or Tox as he's known, recently filmed a video diary for ITV News from inside an Aleppo hospital. Now he's recorded, in all its horror, his latest journey into that city. Paul Davis has this exclusive report.
Big, fat plumes of smoke. Mark.
There can be few roads in the world more dangerous than the route into Aleppo. For a week, this was as close as this aid convoy was able to go. Tox, an aid worker from East London, stuck just outside that ravaged city with 3 tons of desperately needed food.
We've got lots of stuff. All of this stuff comes directly from the UK. We've got chickpeas, peeled plum tomatoes. We've even got some Heinz baked beans, okay?
At last, word comes through. Syrian government forces have been pushed back. There is a chance. Though first, the battered former NHS ambulance that will carry the supplies gets a crude camouflage coating of mud to hide it from warplanes. Tox leads a 3-vehicle convoy, which had barely reached the outskirts of Aleppo when the area comes under fire.
Whoa. Regime checkpoint, you can...
They pass a checkpoint which until a few days earlier had been manned by Assad soldiers. Then disaster. The ambulance engine dies at the same time as government jets are launching an attack. There's no choice but to run for it as multiple explosions erupt around them.
Cluster bombs, bro. Illegal cluster bombs.
They claim these are deadly and illegal cluster bombs.
Wow, look at this place, man. Look at the place.
Only 2 of the original 3 vehicles complete the journey into the besieged city.
Look, you can see this is what we have to do, okay? To get aid in to those people that are being choked.
The precious load is delivered. Tomorrow it will be distributed among the trapped civilian population, though some have been given their share already. Tox checks an overworked hospital. He also has supplies for them. But before that can happen, the warplanes return.
We've just been here at the hospital again.
Through the dust and wreckage, it's clear the hospital has been hit. Tox rushes to investigate. Thankfully, it's not the wards this time, but the building that provides the hospital's power that's been targeted.
All the electrics are broken. This basically means the hospital is out of service. Look, we've got no roof on this building no more.
That first aid delivery was followed by 6 airstrikes over the weekend, and those on the receiving end say the hospitals were being deliberately targeted. Paul Davis, ITV News.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News. From grassroots to gold, we investigate the story behind Team GB's Olympic success.
And never too old to learn, the ballerina dancing her way into the record books. Those stories and more after the break. Join us then. Hello, again, welcome back. Now, Britain's current success at Rio is all the more remarkable if you compare it to the Atlanta Games 20 years ago. Then, British athletes brought back a mere 15 medals, including just 1 gold, finishing below Belgium and Kazakhstan in the medal table.
Spin forward 2 decades and what a contrast. Take a look at this. Britain currently second in the table with 40 medals already in the bag, including 16 golds. Our sports correspondent Ian Payne has been investigating what lies behind the success and its impact at the grassroots.
This is the South Essex Gymnastics Hall in Basildon. The sport is so popular here that there's a waiting list to join. And after local hero Max Whitlock's astonishing double gold success in Rio, it's going to get even busier.
The phones haven't stopped ringing since we've been here this morning. We've already had over 100 emails just this morning, just inquiring on how young children can start new classes. So it's going to be a big boom again.
Team GB's success has been helped by money put into sport from the National Lottery Funding Programme. 20 years ago, UK athletes received £20 million in the run-up to the Atlanta Games. They won just 15 medals. By London 2012, £265 million helped push the team to a record 65 medals. So extra money means extra success.
National lottery funding started to flow to support athletes and sports in about 1998. 97, 98. And since then we've been actually developing a programme of support within each and every sport that has actually enabled athletes to train and compete against the very best in the world.
Yes, it was John Major who launched the lottery funding project. It certainly helped Team GB, but is it encouraging more people to take part in sport as it was intended? Around £200 million of lottery funding is used to increase participation every year. 10 years ago, 14 million people were taking part in a sport at least once a week. That peaked at nearly 16 million people at the time of London 2012. But since then, the numbers have dropped. So will there be a surge again now? Well, more youngsters are diving at gold medal winner Jack Law's pool in Yorkshire, and more budding athletes are being seen at long jumper Greg Rutherford's track in Milton Keynes.
It makes me inspired that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you can still make it.
To know that I could be in his place Sunday and I could be at the Olympics and be on the podium like him.
4 years ago when he won the gold, on the Tuesday night, 91 9-year-olds came through the gate to come and start doing athletics. And obviously our junior ranks have swelled and swelled.
So if winning medals is the best way of encouraging the future, they're on the right track. Ian Payne, ITV News.
The former husband of a Bradford woman who died in Pakistan in an alleged honour killing is said to have confessed to her murder. Samir Shahid's ex-partner Chowdhury Shakil was arrested along with her father Mohammed Shahid, who is reportedly being held on suspicion of being an accomplice.
A ban on the sale of so-called zombie knives is to come into force this week. The blades are often sold as collector's items, but police say they are increasingly being used as weapons. The ban takes effect in England and Wales on Thursday.
And rail commuters are facing yet more misery after talks in the Southern Rail dispute broke down. The RMT union says it's now considering the next move.
And finally, ballet is a hugely demanding discipline, even for those at the peak of their physical abilities. Imagine then how daunting it must be if you're 71 and recently had knee replacement surgery.
Except Doreen Petchy, facing her exam for the elite Royal Academy of Dance, wasn't at all daunted. She was determined to pass and fulfil a childhood dream, as she told Duncan Golestani.
I've always loved music. Being able to dance to it is exhilarating.
As a little girl, Doreen dreamed of becoming a ballerina. After 6 decades, that dream has come true. She has just passed her grade 6 exam.
Yahoo! I was over the moon, champagne all round.
Doreen started taking lessons 10 years ago. When she was 61, she now dances in local performances. It is a luxury her family could not afford when Doreen was a child.
It wasn't just the ballet lessons, but if you did ballet, you expected to do the shows, and the costumes were expensive because friends did it, but they're probably a bit better off than we were.
Doreen believes ballet has made her body stronger and more flexible. As well as dropping 5 dress sizes, dancing helped her through knee replacement surgery 3 years ago. She isn't fussed about being the oldest ballerina to pass grade 6 because she's concentrating on getting to 7 and maybe 8. Her motto in life, use it or lose it. Duncan Golostani, ITV News.
Good luck to her. That's it for now. Raggy Omar will be here at 10.
Well, from all the team here, have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.